Ever loved a movie so much you couldn't wait to own it? You tell your friends, your family, your coworkers, just anyone who would listen. Once it's released, you rush over to possess it, excited to relive the experience. But in the end, it only sits and collects dust. This time, I'll be unwrapping them.
Oof. Been a while since I've done an Unwrapped review, but here we are! Welcome, everybody! It's time for an Unwrapped review. Today is going to be Kolobos, another horror movie. I've been doing a lot of horror movies, I feel like. Don't you worry, non-horror movie fans. I will be doing non-horror movies at some point. Actually, the next Unwrapped review is not a horror movie, so there you go. I want to apologize to my lovely Muddy Cold patrons, but also thank you very much for your patience for this video. I have put this off quite a bit. I've been sick for a week, so that kind of pushed back me filming this video and the next video that I'm going to be filming on this same day. So, yes, apologies. Also, I had travel plans, so that also messed with my schedule. Anyway, let's jump into Kolobos. Let me tell you what this movie is about. The real world meets Saw by way of Suspiria in the super smart, super gory, and sadly super overlooked late 90s horror gem from filmmakers Daniel Litowicz and David Todd Oakbert, released in the midst of the post-stream slasher revival. A group of youngsters arrive at a snow-covered house under the guise of participating in a groundbreaking new experimental film, but with the entire property fitted out with cameras to capture their every move. What initially promises to be a fun foray into reality TV stardom soon turns into a fight for survival as the youngsters find themselves trapped at the mercy of deadly booby traps and faceless killers. Marketed as little more than another generic slice and dicer at the time of its release, Kolobos, which actually has much more in common with the likes of Cube and My Little Eye, will come as a revelation for horror fans who missed it the first time around. So if this Blu-ray looks familiar, I did show this in one of my Texas Frightmare Weekend hauls. I also think it's in the intro of this video because, yeah, it's definitely, well, obviously it's in the Unwrapped review series. So I actually watched this for one of the letterbox challenges that I am doing this year by the lovely and intelligent and clever Azul. I mean, I don't know him very well, but I feel like he's put so much work into his challenges, and I'm still trying to finish his challenge that he created last year while trying to keep up with this one. I watched it for week 17's prompt, which is Arrow Video Week. See an underrated gem from their catalog. And I bought this from the Arrow Video booth at Texas Frightmare, I believe 2019? I think it's from the second year that I went there. I'll put a correction if I was wrong, but yes, I will definitely throw a card up so you can watch that haul video of all the stuff I got from that year. But yes, this is one of the movies that I bought. I don't know if I mentioned in that video that I have never heard of this movie. Obviously have never seen it, so this was my first watch through, and the premise sounded really interesting, especially because it mentions movies and references that I am familiar with and enjoy. Hearing that it's the real world and Saw mixed together with some Suspirian inspiration just sounded very interesting and intriguing. And since it says that it's an underrated film from the 90s after the whole boom and resurgence of slasher films because of the iconic 1996 movie Scream, which I will be talking about in this series at some point, because I am going to be going through every Scream movie, because I have the box set and haven't actually watched all the movies, and then I won the fourth installment and I bought the latest one, and I have not watched them since I bought them, so yes, they will definitely be in this series. I do not have any lack of content for the Unwrapped reviews. I have plenty of movies to unwrap, which is a downfall of me buying movies all the time. I have tons of stuff that I have that I have not watched, so don't you worry. It's an array of stuff, and at some point I'll do another poll too. I know there's one poll entry I still need to cover, and hopefully I can get through that soon. I started it, but I haven't finished it. But enough rambling. So Kolobos, as my first watch of this movie, I do not regret my purchase, although I will admit when I first started the movie I was a little uncertain. I wasn't sure where it was gonna go. It started off with the main character being found by this guy, and she almost got hit by a car, and she's just badly beaten up, bloody, and she's taken to a hospital, and then all of a sudden it cuts to these people entering this house in this kind of Big Brother-esque reality type show, and then all of a sudden someone gets killed, and it's just really odd. And I think it's good that it took me so long to make this video, because I really needed to process what I watched, because I was like kind of so lukewarm towards it. I'm like, I didn't hate it, I didn't regret blindly buying it, but I wasn't like super in love with it. But I can totally understand why it is underrated. It has a lot of interesting, I guess, execution choices of how it's put together. Of course, this was made before Saw blew up and torture porn became like a huge thing where people really liked watching people being stuck in traps or in, like, I don't know, Home Alone-esque horror situations like The Collection, whatever type movies, because it came out in 1999. I feel like maybe it's non-success for a time. Maybe it was a little ahead of its time with the traps and stuff, but I'm sure like this has been seen in like early 90s, 80s films where there's like a few little traps and stuff, but not as much as like gore, torturous stuff. If that makes any sense. I feel like it doesn't. But I do enjoy the premise of like watching these characters go through this house or try to just, they're excited to be part of this experiment of being in a reality show, but it turning out to be just, I don't know, a torture house. But the movie doesn't just focus on like all these traps and stuff. I mean, there's more to just the traps. As it mentions, it's a slasher, and yes, there is a villain that is killing off each person, and then there's another element of like almost a supernatural piece to it, and a sliver of like psychological horror. So there's like so many different elements mixed together, and it's just, it takes some adjusting, is what I found out for myself personally when I was watching it, because I was just kind of like, where is this movie going? I'm not sure, because it keeps bouncing back from the people in the house and then going back to our main character who's in the hospital, and then her having like these flashbacks or traumatic like memory moments. But then I'm like, okay, well maybe the stuff that's happening in the house is linked to what she's remembering in the hospital, and it kind of is. So it just goes kind of back and forth from the present to the past. but I think it makes more sense once you get to the end of the film. And honestly, I had to like rewatch kind of like part of like maybe the last 20 to 30 minutes to like really process what the heck I just watched. And I also like read the Wikipedia page just to like get a better understanding of what I saw. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And it's very different for its time. And like I said earlier, I totally understand why it's an underrated movie. Because I have never heard of Kolobos in my life. I have never seen anybody talk about this movie or anything, and now watching it, I'm glad I now know it, and I hope more people check this out because of, I don't know, this somewhat interesting and hopefully entertaining review of it. But no, it's very interesting and different, and I liked how it ended, and I'm sure whenever I get a chance to like rewatch the whole thing, now knowing how it ends and piecing it together, because like there is a twist, it makes more sense. And hopefully when people watch this movie after, I guess, watching my review or whatever, or even before they watch this review, I hope they give it a chance, and like I did, because I was very worried and concerned that I made a terrible blind purchase. But yes, it just takes a bit of time of adjustments because it is a different movie. And most of the time when you go into older films, especially in like the 90s, sometimes even the 80s, you have like a certain expectation of what it's going to be because it doesn't go into these, I guess, somewhat modern conventions. So seeing like traps and mixed with slashers seems very ahead of its time for the 90s, even late 90s in my opinion. There are tons of extras on here that are apparently director approved special edition content, so there's tons of stuff. I did not watch all of it because it is a lot. There are some like music videos and stuff like that, and there's even like some shorts. I try to watch the Super 8 short by Daniel Leotowish. Sorry if I messed up both of these filmmakers' names at the beginning. Called Superhelden. I guess that's, I don't know if that's German or Dutch, but I tried to watch it. I didn't finish it. I just cut it off. Like, the audio is pretty bad. I mean, they put subtitles so you can like understand what is going on, what is being said, because it's in a totally different language, and also it's a Super 8 film, so the footage is gonna look like it's shot on a rotten potato. I did watch, let's see, I did watch the Real World Massacre, The Making of Kolobos. I did watch that, and I watched the Face to Faceless interview with the actor who plays Faceless, Ila Volok. Sorry if I said his name wrong. I did watch those two completely, which was very interesting to hear how they did the prosthetics and props on not all of the kills, but mostly the I guess should be iconic kills that happened in the movie. And I always like hearing these interesting stories of like, oh, this is the process of how we did that, and we had to like shoot this at this angle so it looks like this part was happening, but of course it's not really, it's just a mannequin version, and then piecing these pieces together in audio. I'm trying not to spoil the film so y'all can see it, but it was worth the time to watch the making ofs. And as you know, I believe I've mentioned this in past unwrapping videos, I don't watch a lot of special features on DVDs, so it must be really good if I want to know the process of how these filmmakers put together and what their mindset was when they were trying to create their vision. And it sounded like they knew that this movie was ahead of its time, but they're happy that it's kind of become, I don't know if it's like a cult classic or underground hit or whatever. And I hope they find more viewers as time goes by, and I would like to hear more people talk about Kolobos, because it is a very interesting and different film for its time, and more people should talk about it. There you go. I wouldn't say this would be, like, in my favorite films or anything like that. I don't think this was, I don't know, it didn't completely, like, blow my mind, like, oh my gosh, I love this movie. But I do like it, and I'm glad I'm giving it its spotlight, and I'm happy that the challenge pushed me to finally take it out of its plastic and watch it, and I'm glad it's part of my collection. So, also, Kolobos does actually have a meaning to it. So if you watch the movie, they tell you what this word means, which is quite interesting. And I don't want to say what it is because it somewhat ties into some sort of spoiler a little bit, but not really. But yeah. So I don't remember if I actually put ratings in this like type of video, my Unwrapped reviews, but I will just throw up my like Letterboxd rating of what I put it, and you can also follow me on Letterboxd. I'll also put the link to Azul's challenge that I am working on in the description below, and on the screen you'll see my Letterboxd. So you are totally welcome to follow me. I try to log every movie that I watch on there, but sometimes the movie is unavailable. So if you want a complete list of things I have watched in the year, I do keep track of that on Muddy Cult the blog, and that link will be in the description below. So anyway, that is my review of Kolobos. I hope it was a decent one. Like I said, I did like this movie, and I can't wait to like rewatch it with new eyes now, knowing and understanding everything that I like consumed the first time around. And hopefully I can watch this with somebody else who also appreciates horror movies and were in the same spot I was before I watched this. I've never heard or seen it. So if you have seen Kolobos, please share your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear what you have to say, because like I don't know anyone who has seen or talked about this movie, like, in my whole 30 plus years of living. That's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button below. I post content here once or twice a week. You never know unless you subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in another video. Peace.